But you mentioned Stern there, and this is not a Robin.
See, he's not, here he comes.
Yeah.
Stern, Robin Quivers, Chad. You got to bring up Chad. Remember,
I'll never ask you about Chad ever until.
And Kevin, bro, what do you think about him and Kevin Brennan working together? You think it's going to work? I know. I have your questions.
So Howard Stern, right?
I don't care. I love it.
In the last 48 hours, there seems to have been a feud that at least a trade and a back and forth between Howard Stern and Joe Rogan. There's for a long time there's been a theory that Stern is jealous of the fact that Joe Rogan basically not started podcasting, but Joe Rogan went into podcasting and 100% became basically the modern version of what Howard Stern is, while Stern is still doing his shit fucking show behind a paywall. It's fucking ridiculous. Listen, I love Metallica, but every time I hear them be interviewed by Howard Stern, I wish they all died in that fucking bus, not just Cliff Burton. Like it's like, so what was it like when you wrote Enter Sandman and it was a big hit? It's just like, what a fascinating question that they've never answered in 30 fucking years, big nose. But in regards to
when you get angry. I like when you get angry.
Yeah, a very small penis. But it's with Stern and Joe Rogan. What do you think about this recent sort of a back and forth? And Stevie Lou, maybe you've seen some of it yourself.
Yeah, I'm new to it. I know that there was a big beef between Ari Shaffir and Howard Stern a couple years ago about that podcasts weren't anything, and it seems like Howard may have been wrong on that. No offense, Jim. I know you know him, but there was something there. And yeah, I guess if you want to talk about a king of all media right now, there is no king of all media, even though he'd like to think that. And if you're going to say who's the closest thing to a king of all media, you'd give it to Joe Rogan with the amount of views he gets.
Well, I know it was something over the vaccines or something like that. What Neil Young, but what did Joe Rogan say anything back? Because Joe usually doesn't respond. I might have missed that. I know Neil Young was crying that he took his, first of all, Neil Young took his music off of Spotify and he thought everyone was going to follow him. And I think like Joni Mitchell did. And then no one else did. And then like 3 weeks later, his music was back up on Spotify. So he's a fucking phony. Fuck that guy, you know? And then I don't know, did Joe Rogan respond back to Howard Stern saying he had these crazy doctors on? Using?
I have no idea, but it's funny that when you say Neil Young, that's what those Catholic priests used to say to their,
That's a good one. I like that one.
Good.
There you go. But with
something about this comedy career that he's got going.
Yeah, but I think that
he's got like 4 minutes already. I think he's got 4 solid minutes.
Yeah. Oh, I've definitely got minutes, but I don't know if we've got any good content. But the thing about with Howard Stern, I think that his issue really comes down to the fact that he's jealous. And like they're doing all this stuff with these big guests and huge names. Fucking like the other day, he had a well-known, hilarious person, Sean Penn, on, and I'm sure it was really good. Followed by another hilarious guy whose wit I just cannot get enough of. So good, Eddie Vedder, and I'm sure that was really funny too. And they were all talking about how down to earth they are, because that's what's fucking fun content, you know. But I just think that when he sees he's getting these names on and it's not getting any attention, and then Joe Rogan's getting like fucking Mr. Belden on, I don't know, it's one of my topical references, and it gets like 4 or 5 million hits. And Stern's like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Hey, Robin, by the way, did your Florentine ever eat your box?
Look, I think it goes back to, there was something went down with Joe and Howard where Joe didn't want to come on the show anymore. And Howard's always been annoyed by that. Like they wanted him to come back on probably 10 years ago. And it was because Joe was sitting in that chair back in the day. We were at Artie Lang and I was in it and Stanhope and all these dudes. But Joe had some falling out with Howard. I forget what it was. I don't think they ever talked about it. And Joe still respects him. I've heard him say, look, I love Howard and stuff like that. He's, I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for him. He broke all these rules and shit like that. But I think so Howard's probably still annoyed at whatever went down. And Joe just said, no, I'm not coming back on the show anymore. I think that has something to do with whatever little feud there is. But Joe Depp never gets he never gets involved in that shit. He doesn't comment on it. Maybe he will like a few months later, but he never goes, I got to go on my podcast. I'm going to tell you what I think of what he just said, which I like about that.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, the thing about Stern, it's like, because he was so over the top about the vaccine stuff. And he was like, I'm not leaving my house. I'm not interacting with anyone. I'm not doing any of this shit. Except for when Jimmy Kimmel came to New York and a group of like 18 people went out for dinner. Just like, I thought you were afraid of the virus. And then he had Bruce Springsteen on, who is the working man. And he is so down to earth and normal that it's only $5,000 if you want to go see him at his tour, because that's a small amount of money to hear Dancing in the Dark. No one's ever heard that song played live. This is your chance. Dancing in the Dark, $5,000. Can't wait. But he went on the Stern show, and Stern broke his COVID fucking lockdown to come in to New York for a 2.5-hour interview with fucking Springsteen, and he didn't ask him one thing that he hasn't addressed a million times before. Oh, were you actually born in USA? When you began to run, how soon was it after you were born? And it's just like, or as I come up with the pun, get ready to laugh, lads. More like boring in the USA, right? Give it up for the troops. Come on. Let's pay it for the women too. Come on, boys.
Look, all I know is I know people out there that are still petrified of the virus. They barely even come out. They won't even eat like at a restaurant unless there's outdoor dining still 3 years later. So, to each its own if you're going to be afraid of it. I wasn't, I went right back out there. I'm like, whatever, I'll fight it off. So some people are just like that. They're fucking paranoid over germs and they still think this thing is a big thing. And it's so, who the fuck knows?
But this is the thing. Well, Howard Stern's nose, just a hilarious pun about his ugly face. But I think that's so typical about Howard Stern, where he's like, "Oh no, it's dirty. I don't want to go anywhere near germs. I'm worried about my health." Also, Beth, can we 69 tonight? Put your anus right in my face while I'm get my tongue in your piss box, and then you just think the hypocrisy of these people. It's just I hate him. And did you happen to hear his interview with Springsteen?
Do I what?
Did you hear his Springsteen interview?
No, I despise Springsteen. I grew up in New Jersey. I had to deal with him my whole life. He's not the working man at all. Like you said, the only thing I'll give him respect for, he does like 4-hour shows, concerts, like 3.5 to 4 hours, and he'll play a lot of like obscure songs. So if you're a Springsteen fan, I like that. Shit, somebody's knocking on my door.
We can cover it here for if you need a minute.
Give me a second. Yeah, give me a second.
Yeah,
sorry. Yeah.
With Springsteen too, Husey, is that he plays a different show every time too. It's not the same cookie cutter set list. He mixes up his set lists, so you could go see him 5 nights in a row and get a different show more or less each time. One last thing I wanted to say. I know Jim's not here, so we can't, but whatever. I'm going to go out on a limb, and if it were Howard Stern versus Joe Rogan in a fight, I think that Joe Rogan's going to win that one. So don't let this like get clipped and go back to either one of them. But I honestly think if it was a fist fight, street fight, that Joe Rogan's going to get Howard Stern. He'd take him down, I think.
Yeah, I think that. I love Bruce Springsteen. I'm going to see him in May 3 times in a row. But the thing is, it's when he's interviewed, it's so bad. Like, were you actually hungry when you wrote Hungry Heart? And it's just like it's the like when you wrote Streets of Philadelphia, how much blood was actually coming out of your ass? And I think that that's the problem with Stern, is that he's now become the guy where he's so unliked by people that going on his show can cause a backlash against you instead of helping you promote your new Vin Diesel Fast and Furious Fast X. You looking forward to Fast X, Jim?
I never saw one of them. Let me guess. They race cars.
So you did see it?
No, but I'm just guessing.
How did you guess that?
I don't know. I just thought I was Educated guess. Am I right that they race cars and someone wins?
How the fuck did you guess that?
It's weird. So now I guess I don't need to see it.
Is Paul Walker going to be in this one? This is the Paul Walker.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they bring him back,
I'm going to go see it.
Yeah, he's going to be filming like this, like hello, Van Dyke. Oh, by the way, just as a final note, Paul Walker, the girlfriend he was dating, he met her when she was 15.
so
Well, he was in his later 30s.
friends.
Yeah. Friends like fucking Rachel and fucking Ross Geller. Am I right, Jim?
So no one told you life was
1 second of Friends.
Fucking good stuff. The guy had a monkey.
All right, I'm going to do it. I can't be a coward here. I started watching Friends recently with my wife, and I got to say that I always thought it was. I thought it was a bad show. It's kind of growing on me, but it could be also brain cancer, Jim. It could be also brain cancer growing on me. So.
You can't as a comic from New York City think that Friends is funny. Like back in the day when it was on, but you can't just go back and think.
Listen, I ingest high grade marijuana and hashish pretty regularly.
Right, well, that will help. And so are you watching it when you're high?
Yeah.
Then it will be funny. Anything.
The monkey? Come on, the monkey. I'm like, what?
I don't even know. I don't even know what the fucking monkey is. All I know is I remember the theme song. They were air drumming and playing like air guitar. That was hilarious. I mean, that made me tune in. I'm like, holy shit. Jennifer Aniston playing the air drums. How can I can't miss an episode.
Yeah. You should
show my ass here. Sorry, I'm embarrassed. I'm showing my ass. Can you
Stevie, you're gonna get like Ross's latest haircut, whatever because that's.
Oh God, Jim! I'm always wearing a hat because I'd be more of who was the bald guy we were making fun of before? Bald Brian on Adam Carolla's show. I'm more the Bald Brian haircut.
That's what they do. I remember when that show was on, like whatever haircuts they have for the new season, everybody would go out and get those haircuts.
That's right. But that was an exciting time. But I tell you one thing.
We'll move on, please.
Yeah, but I gotta say one thing about Matt LeBlanc, who we can all agree is a fabulous actor with many successful roles under his belt. Everybody knows Jim Florentine's favorite movie of all time was the 1990s reboot of Lost in Space, where Matt LeBlanc said the fantastic line that Jim says every morning. He has a tattooed across his back that says, "Last one to kill a bad guy buys the beer." Because that's what tough guys say.
Yeah, that's a good one.
We went a long way.
Yeah,
we went a long way for that joke.
Die Hard movie, a Bruce Willis Die Hard movie.